Welcome to GraceFully Educated podcast. I'm your host, Carmela Carter. This is a place where we blend wisdom, faith, and learning with grace. And I have the absolute pleasure of sitting with Miss Jessica Wright. Thank you so much for being here,
Yeah,
Jessica.
thank you. Thank
Wait
you.
till y'all learn all about her, okay? This girl is an educator, a crafter, a business owner, a boss.
Yes, yes,
But,
yes.
but I didn't do you any justice talking about yourself. So tell the people who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I am a high school biology teacher, which was a career change for me. I am a pro makeup artist where I work for New York Fashion Week, used to be a makeup director for Atlantic City Fashion Week. And I'm also a business owner of a crafting business of, it's called Beautiful and Bold Creations, where I craft and make pretty much anything you could think of. My mom, it's funny because my mom literally just said this morning, she was like, what don't you do?
Right.
But from that, and then in school for my master's degree in biology as well.
Nice. I love that. First of all, you probably don't remember that. She does all of the things. But one time we were at a conference with what's her name? Nicole, my
Okay.
friend Nicole. She had a women's conference and you
Mm.
were there doing makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew like what type of foundation I needed.
Okay.
And I sat down. I was pregnant with Skylar, so that was
Yes.
like 5 years ago, and I almost 6 years ago. And I sat down and I was like, "Help me with this." And you told me about Maybelline Pro Matte.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know I've been using it ever since?
That is, listen, I tell everybody, we use Maybelline on the runway. Like, it is one of the top makeup foundations that will get you right for a good coin.
Okay, y'all see this face right here? Blended by Maybelline. Okay,
It will get you right. And I would say Maybelline is a dupe for NARS. So you can get that NARS quality on a budget.
Okay, and let me tell you, I'll never forget that, and I always be like, Jessica was the one. So thank you for that.
No problem.
So you're all of the things, but we're here to talk about education.
Yes.
What led you to the path, Jessica? What got you into education? Because I know you were going down a nursing career one time, and now you're in education, high school. Tell us about that.
So I originally was I wanted to be a medical examiner. I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
That was my ultimate thing. And I was like, with finances and trying to be able to afford college,
Mm-hmm.
you got to like, okay, look at things a little different. So I was going to go into nursing and then work my way into it. But then it was like something just clicked. Like, well, it was God showing me where my purpose was supposed to be.
Mm.
And I never like, it was funny because everybody's like, why is kids always attracted to you? And I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
Like, I have no idea. And I mean, everywhere I go, grocery stores, anywhere, kids just walk up to me and speak to me.
Really?
And I'm like, where's your parents?
Right.
And that's when I started like really getting used, grasping the idea that's where I was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
so, how did you end up in teaching? So, how did that pass?
So once I realized that's where I was supposed to be, and I thought about it, and wanting to be a mom and everything, I was like, what can I do to where I don't have to be away from my kids all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time I was working at the Turnpike, and I worked a lot of crazy hours.
Yeah.
And I didn't like, not having a life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Working the shift work, working either, overnight, daytime or night. And then constantly rotating shifts. I just couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew with nursing, it wasn't going to be too far in between. So I was like, if this is what my reality is going to be, what can I do with my science background, but be able to enjoy my life? So that's when I was like, well, education might be, the wave.
Mm.
And that's kind of basically where I started taking my education classes and getting my minor in education.
Okay. All right. So you teach high school science right
Yes.
now. How is that?
It has its moments. I love my babies.
Right.
I love my babies, but it has its moments where I'm like, Lord, this is where you got me. This is what you got me doing.
Okay.
Some days I'm like, I tell, sit down, just do your work.
Right.
But other days where I'm like, it's very, very less days than I have like that, where the kids, they know, they're like, Miss Wright today's not her day. Y'all just sit down, let's do our work and let's get to it.
Right.
But other than that,
because
they know.
She gonna handle you.
Right. They know, they call me, they're like, you are just like everybody's mom.
Oh, Jessica. That must mean that they feel safe with you.
Yes. And that's one of my daily prayers.
The kids feel safe with you. I love that. So what are some of the challenges you face as a high school educator?
Being able to, with younger ones, it's different with, giving that love and being able to, know your role. With little ones, it's a lot easier. But with teenagers, their hormones all over the place. Their thoughts are all over the place.
Child.
They're impulsive. And being able to know when to give them love, when to give them that, hey, now, get it together.
Right.
Or when to, give them the auntie, the mom, the whatever, the teacher version, knowing when to give them that space.
Mm-hmm. When to like say, you doing too much.
Right.
Yeah, so those are the challenges. What about some challenges like I see right now in education? We have a lot of high schoolers like dropping out because they just don't have the passion for it, or they're turning to gang violence or drugs and stuff like that. And so for me, those are some of the challenges I have as a middle school educator. So I'm like, I can't imagine if I'm facing these challenges in high school. I mean, in middle school, what are the high school students facing?
So in high school, a lot of them, they're in that because of my generation. I love my generation, but we made being social media stars a big thing.
Okay.
So they think that, social media is going to get them to where they need to.
Mm.
And I'm like, that's still hard work.
Right.
You still need a high school diploma.
Right.
And I tell them, like, where are you going to get to without your high school diploma, you still can't work at McDonald's or Burger King now.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
They're getting to the point where they're requiring at least a high school diploma for jobs that we didn't think that needed it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I said, that is one of the biggest, get them to understand that, yes, you can make money, you can do stuff, but just know that your struggle is going to be a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like getting them to understand, like, school is not just about learning about science and history and it's not about just that.
Right.
Get them to understand, like, this is where you get your life tools.
True. Very true.
Like, one of the things I always tell my kids, I say, treat your assignments like your bills. And they're like, well, Miss Wright, they was like, well, what do you mean by that? And I'm like,
I'm gonna steal that. Public notice, that gets sold.
They're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, your bill. I said, your assignments are your bills right now. Mm-hmm. I said, what happens if you pay your bills late? Mm. They was like, well, my light's gonna get cut off, my phone get turned off. Right. And I said, and then what happens when that stuff gets turned off and then you finally pay it? What do you got to do? We got to wait for them to turn it back on. I said, so now whose hands are you in? That company's, correct? I said, it's the same thing in school. You turn your assignments late. Now you got to wait for me to grade them because I've already graded it. So now I got to double back. You have to remind yourself, you don't do something on time, there's a consequence. So, and they're like, okay, all right, fine. I'm going to make sure I get it done.
I love that. Especially like science, because a lot of students don't think, not unless they're a nursing major or some sort of science, they don't think how important or how relatable science is to life.
Exactly.
How do you help them understand that? Like, no, I don't care if you want to be a police officer, science is important. I don't care what a judge, science is important. A nurse, science is uber important. How do you help them understand, bringing that into like real life?
So one of the things, like, I try to do real world applications in class. So right now, our kids are working on a genetic project.
Okay.
Their end of the year project. And they're understanding that a lot of the things that they see every day with anybody, like, it's it could be a genetic disorder. Mm-hmm. Like, one of my students, she's learning, all the things about sickle cell and how it's in her family. And she didn't realize how deep the trait was in her family.
Wow.
So they're kind of getting learning their family history a little bit. So then it's like, they're like, well, I didn't know science can tie me to my family history. I'm like, science connects you to so much. So getting that real world applications is really helping them connect the dots a little bit more, especially within the Black and brown communities.
Right. One of the things I tell my students, I just saw her the other day, and she's so cute. She wanted to be a police officer. She's in 6th grade. So in order for me to encourage her with science, I would tell to her, like, don't you need to be able to do fingerprints?
Right. Exactly.
DNA?
Exactly.
Say more. What else?
DNA, you being able to identify if it's a male or female. That committed the crime. And that's one of the things we did Punnett squares a couple of weeks ago. And I didn't.
Wait, what's Punnett squares?
So Punnett squares is basically like you identifying what are the possibilities of the traits that the child can have, of the offspring.
Okay. So
it was the funniest thing. And one of the kids, I didn't tell them what, I just put it on the paper and let them figure it out. And one of the questions was, what percentage of the son has this? And they're like, well, how can I tell if it's a boy or girl here? And I'm like, I gave them that information a week ago, but I wanted to see if they remembered it. And I told them, if it has a Y chromosome, we know that it is a male. So one kid was like, oh, wait, the Y, that's telling us. And it was like the aha moment for them. So they were able to take that and understand, like, I could look at a paper and identify if it's a male or female by just looking at a paper.
Right. Yep. So science is just like it's all over us. Like even if I look around my room right now, it's like I have all these plants all over.
Right.
I have to replace you with a real plant. But all of those things are so uber important. How do you encourage parents? Because I know for a struggle for me is getting parent involvement. So how do you encourage parents to be involved, especially because your kids are high school, some of them are
Right.
adults. So how
Right.
do you encourage parent involvement?
So like I said, with that genetic project, they're asking parents questions now.
Okay.
They're, doing surveys with their families and identifying some are their end product for their project is they have to do a podcast or they have to do a video.
That's so cute.
A documentary. So they're really, getting involved. In one girl, she went to go ask her cousin, interviewed her cousin for vitiligo.
Wow.
So they're really
vitiligo. Tell the people vitiligo.
Vitiligo is where you have pigmentation issues, where it's like a reverse pigmentation. So you start to lose your color.
Yeah. So keep going.
So she's so involved. Like she was like really involved in understanding like where it's coming from. How did her cousin get this? And understanding that she also now has the trait for it.
Wow. Wow.
So it's really getting the families involved with, just with that aspect of the project.
Wow. So when you have a student like failing or not doing what they're supposed to do, those can we keep it real on the podcast? How are you encouraging those families to get on board?
So the kids know. They're like, oh gosh, she about to call my mom. She about to call my mom. Oh my gosh, she's calling home. And I will call in the moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so you don't want to do this? Let's call mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they know that it's not like I will do it. No, don't care about your feelings. You could cry about it later. I'm going to call home. Mm-hmm. And the moment I call home and let them know, like, hey, and most parents, they know when they see my name pop up on the phone, it's something real. Because I try not to call. I try to deal with a lot of stuff with, with the kids.
In class.
Right. So when I'm calling, they're like, what you do? Because you clearly did something.
Right.
So when I do that, they're like, don't even worry about it. When they get home, this and this is going to get done. And literally probably I get a text message a couple of hours later. Oh, done. Once they get home, Miss Wright, such and such, they completed these assignments.
Wow.
Because I tell them, like, I don't want, once they reach a certain grade, I'm calling home.
Right.
Because, like, now you're in a danger as a felon.
Right. And I love that about you. And a lot of teachers don't do that, right? So as an administrator, I get the teachers are not calling home. I call for behavior first.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents like, I didn't even know that my child was failing that class. I didn't even know that this was happening, right? Because teachers some of teachers are not getting as involved with the child's education.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of letting them fail.
Right. And I will say, teachers are overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We are definitely overwhelmed. So, certain things when you got 1,000 moving parts, you try to like take a moment and remember what you got to do. And that's one of the reasons why the kids laugh at me, because I got sticky notes all over my laptop.
Okay.
So
whatever it takes.
Right. And the sticky notes and the kids know, you see a sticky note with your name on it, that means you're on the list to get called home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they're like, you calling my mom? Yes. Have you looked at your grade?
Right.
They're like, for real? Yes.
Yeah. So, because even like my son's school, like he was doing bad in some classes recently, and we didn't know until we looked at the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we looked at the portal, my husband was like, "Wait, he's going here, doing this, and he's failing." Da 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 da. It took us one time to talk to him. I said, "You will not go, blah 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 blah." But I feel like, why let a child fail if you know? Because I get, like, as teachers, you're like, I got a lot going on. You should be checking your own child's grade. But in the same sense, as teachers that choose, like, I understand that parent might not know that this child is failing, so I'm going to reach out.
Right.
And I'm going to say something because I care about that child's education.
Right.
And sometimes I think it takes, like, just time management, right?
Right.
So how do you manage your time as a teacher to say, you know what? I'm going to be on top of these parents if this child is failing, but I also am going to balance my life, too, and not be overwhelmed.
Right. So what I try to do, and I'm grateful that this year I had a TA. So
good.
So what our school we do, we have some seniors who are ahead and they don't have to do much classes the school year. So I had a TA this year. I actually had two.
Oh, wow. Your school uses students?
High school seniors, to help.
Oh, I love that for y'all.
Because that way they can get community service hours. Mm-hmm. And it just helps them understand the aspect of working, kind of like the real world, or what does it looks like, what is the job of a teacher. But so they kind of understand the role and the job of a teacher, which helps them, understand what is it like when you get to college. Because most of them, they think, oh, teachers just great. We don't do a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And so it helps. And with that, I was able to, be able to take time because they were able to grade some of this work. I didn't have to worry about grading some of this stuff. So they were able to sit there, grade that, and I can say, okay, now I can call home during my prep.
Oh, I love that.
Or, I mean, gratefully, we have block scheduling. So our prep is, 90 minutes. So I can get a couple of calls done.
Did you just say an hour and a half of prep?
Yes.
Love that for y'all.
So, and that's one thing I love about block scheduling is being able to get everything done during the class period, as well as having a decent prep. And with that, like I said, I have my list and I start crossing the names off and calling the parents that I need to call. And then, it's a simple message, or if I need to send a text, hey, just wanted to let you know your child has an XXYZ grade in my class. They are missing quite a few assignments. If you need help, what assignments they're missing, or they can go and show you what assignments are missing and go from there. And it doesn't have to be a lengthy phone call.
Right. That's great time management. I think sometimes people don't use their time wisely.
Right. And I tell people, I'm like, so you can email, text, or call. And sometimes I'll do a mass email to, all my students' parents, like, hey, your child is in danger of failing. Make sure you go into ARMA, check your child's grades. If you have any questions, reach out. And then if I don't hear from them, I do a follow. If I don't see a change, I do a follow up. Like, it's just simple stuff.
Right. Those proactive teachers are to die for. Pounds up.
Yes.
Seriously. From a parent perspective, from a leadership perspective as well. But I think I just looked at you from a lens of a parent. Like, I appreciate that. Right. And I know that parents watching appreciate that as well. Right. Because some parents are like me, right? Really busy and then be like, exactly. Oh my God, I forgot to look at his grades this week and stuff like that. What is some encouragement? So we talked about parent involvement, we talked about student involvement. What are some things that you would say to educators that feel like, you know what, I just want to quit?
We all get that moment. We all, and that's in any profession. You get that moment where you're like, is this it? But we got to constantly put ourselves on that wheel and reinvent our thinking, reinvent our steps, kind of. So, I mean, yes, teachers get burnt out. We know about that teacher burnout.
That's why we got summer vacations. Don't ever take that away from us.
Right. And, I say, take that moment, have that self-care.
Right.
Take them. Even I tell my students, even I do it, I have my journal. I have to journal. I have to, write my thoughts out. And then once I write it out, it's real, for one. Because we think that stuff in our head is not real. But once you write out, it's real. And now I can put action to reality. So at that point, I say, okay, what can I do now? Now that I got my thoughts out, what are my steps to fix it? What am I going to do? So in that aspect, when if you're getting that burnout, you getting like, is this the end of the road? Take a step back. What were you doing when you were excited that you're no longer doing? Because sometimes that's the case.
Remembering your why.
Exactly. Remembering your purpose. Why are you here? What got you here?
Right. I think a lot of people don't do what you said previously. And one of the things I heard you say was self-care. And that's one of the things that I try to prioritize me telling my teachers to do.
Yes.
Right. I'm always giving out like Dunkin' Donut gift cards for certain things. Like that's one of my favorite things to do, and like Starbucks gift cards, because just going to Dunkin' Donuts is self-care.
Yep.
Because they be like, I don't have time to be self-care. I'm a mom. I'm a teacher. I'm a wife. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm a dad. I'm a business owner.
You gotta
go to Dunkin' Donuts, take a cup of tea, coffee, juice,
and sit in the car.
And
I tell everybody, I'm like, as a teacher, you're gonna cry. You are going to cry, and that cry is healthy. If you need to sit in the car and just have a cup of coffee and cry, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna feel better after that cry.
Right, and that's a fact. That's a fact.
I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't cry, especially my first year teaching. Child, I cried almost every other day.
How long you been in education?
The second year. Well, I'm going on my third year.
Going into your third year. Nice.
And the second year was definitely, I'm like, all right, I know, I kind of got my feet wet. I know what I'm doing a little bit. Still navigating. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Kind of got my thought process.
Your lessons plans. Hopefully if they don't change the curriculum.
No, because I kind of created my own a little bit. So I get a little wiggle room.
They're good. Good. Yeah. So back to self-care. Like self-care is so important. What are some other things that you do for self-care as an educator?
So
as a person in general?
Right. One thing, I get my own hair. I do not wash or retwist my hair, so I go get that done once a month. I get my nails done, go get my nails done, and most of the time it's after work. But that's that downtime that I can have. Sometimes, it's me just at home on my couch.
Yeah.
So I have to take a time to running 2 businesses. I have to take that time to stop.
Right.
And my mom, my husband, everybody fusses me. They're like, "Girl, You want to keep going? You just want to keep. I'm like, no, I'm about to sit down and do nothing.
Yeah. And don't bother me when I'm doing my nothing.
That part. That part. That part.
Come in the room. What you doing? Nothing.
My husband got that. He got his first really reality because being an educator, we talk all day long. We are entertainers.
If you ever wanted to be an entertainer, be an educator because you got your whole stage.
Right. And one day I just reached my social bar. My meter was done, social capacity over it. Came home, showered, got in the bed. Here come my husband. I turned on into the side. He was like, "Oh, you want to be left alone?" Yes. He was like, "Oh, I'll go back downstairs. Please and thank you." And I didn't even go to sleep. I just laid there and watched TV.
Yeah.
I just needed that nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I always prioritize. I am like pro advocate self-care. I love that we're talking about self-care because I am so pro advocate of being of self-care. Even thinking about one of the things that I do for self-care is I craft, and I know you're a crafter. Right. I am not on her level. But I could do some things. But the way this girl, she got beautiful, we'll promote her later. But if we think about biblically, Jesus, self-care.
Yes.
He went alone to pray.
Most definitely.
So some people's self-care is just being alone and praying.
Exactly. I agree.
Like he was just like, I'll be back. Y'all stay here and wait. I'm going over here.
Right.
And I'm going to pray. And he had to before he even went to the cross, Jessica, where was he at?
He was in prayer.
He was in prayer.
Because he knew where he was headed, but he was like, I gotta pray for these people.
Yeah, because they got me.
Right, because he knew that they was about to be without him.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, now I know I gotta go to my next level.
Child. Jesus was like, I'll be back.
Y'all figure that out. I'm going over here.
I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna do some self-care. And since he was our number one teacher, I love to talk about Jesus in every episode.
Right.
Because he was the teacher of all teachers.
That part.
And we get the privilege of modeling our life after him.
I agree. And that's one of the reasons why, like, once I wake up, do anything, it's to pray for, of course, me and my husband, but then also pray for my school every single day.
Oh, they're lucky to have you.
It's not a day don't go by that I'm not praying for the protection of the school. And, one of the things I always say is to be for the protection inside and out. Because we don't know what's coming in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I plead the blood of Jesus over that building.
Okay. Let me tell you, I literally at the time that this episode drops, I don't know where I'm going to be in my career, so I get to say this. I literally one time took anointing oil and poured it at the threshold of the door.
As you should. As you should.
I said, I need the oil. I need the anointing to cover this place. And then I always visualize, because the building I'm in is in currently, while this episode is while we're talking, the building I'm currently is in the crevices of the hood. Right. So I always see God. I look for angels of the Lord on all four corners of the school. So even though I'm getting threatened daily, or my students are coming nearby, because I work in Camden.
Right.
I'm always saying, God, I see these angels, and they're like big angels, right? Standing tall, just protecting my building.
Right.
Because I'm there, and I want to get back home to my children and my husband.
Right.
I have other parents there that want to get back home to their children and their husband. Right. We have babies there that want to get back to their parents.
Right.
And so we need those angels to protect us, and education is dangerous.
It is. And, it's sad because we never thought that education would be a dangerous field.
Nope.
We didn't know that we was on the battlefield.
Child. Because I can't remember going to school ever.
And feeling unsafe.
And I grew up in Trenton.
Come on.
And I've never felt like when I walked to school, maybe because I was in a child's mindset.
Right.
Only time I felt unsafe is going to high school.
And that was just high school
kids.
Right. It wasn't nothing.
To fight you.
Right. It was kids being kids in a sense. But never felt like we had to worry about some of the things these kids worry about.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. And the crazy thing about it was when the whole situation with ICE, my kids literally asked me, they was like, am I going to get deported?
See what I'm saying, Jessica?
Like, and I literally had to tell my babies, I said, as long as I'm here, that will not happen.
So many kids were afraid of being deported. Even in my son's school. They had kids, if they see a police officer hiding.
Yes. They get so nervous. And I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, y'all don't understand the validity of where we are as a nation, as educators. Like, there, some of the talk is about putting body cams on teachers now.
Really? Just because they have to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that we see.
Right. The type of drills that we have to do as educators.
The drills. Mm-hmm. Lock and hide.
Yes.
All of those things. They're important to keep our children safe.
Right.
But they're also important to keep us safe.
Exactly.
Where only drill I ever did as a child was a fire drill.
That's it. That's all I ever did. I didn't know what a stay in place drill was.
Right. Lock and hide, stay in place, shelter in place.
Yes.
All of those things.
And like I had to teach my kids how to use our lab stools to secure the door.
Oh wow.
So it's some things that I saw, on social media, but I was like, oh, this will help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if we're ever in this situation, use this chair.
Right. Because we got to be safe and we got to go home. That's what's up. Jessica. I love that, you're even embracing, I love everything that you're embracing as an educator. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 4 years in education or in life? Like, where do you see yourself? I would have said 5, but let's just say 3 to 4.
Still in education. Definitely still going to be education. My goal is to get my PhD in education. So I do want to be a college professor.
Okay.
Because I know that there's different places where I know God needs me to be.
Okay. Seasons.
Right. So I know right now my season is high school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody else around me seems to say that I'm going to be a principal. I said, I don't know if I want all that paperwork. I said, I don't know about that paperwork. I said, but if that's what the Lord ended up telling me where I'm supposed to be, that's where I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I know my right now is getting both a master's in education and biology, and then working my way
to being
PhD professor. Yep,
professor. I love that. I can see that for you. I can because like I would encourage you and encourage anybody walk in the way that God. That's our timer. But walk in a way that God leads you.
Right.
Not in the way that is expected of man.
Right.
Because sometimes they can see on you what they would want for you.
Mm-hmm.
And what their desires, because they think that that's the epitome of education.
Right. Or your past.
Yeah, but there's no epitome.
No.
There's no epitome of education. The principal is just as important as the janitor.
Everybody has a job.
The teacher is just important as the nurse.
I agree.
The teacher is just important as the principal. Like, there's no epitome of education. And then the bus drivers. Mm-hmm. Everybody is important in education. And sometimes people who are not in education look through the lens of the hierarchy.
Right.
And they want you to reach the hierarchy.
Right.
And in their mind hierarchy.
Right.
But God is like, that's not where I called you.
Right. And that's why I said wherever God tells me to go, that's where I'm going to go. If God say, nope, I need you to stay here in this high school and continue to do work as a teacher, that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
But I'm only going to do what God tells me to do.
Right. Yeah, I love that for you. And I love that for you guys watching as well. Jessica, it has been a pleasure talking to you. And I know parents are going to enjoy this conversation. I know educators, science teachers, and everybody in STEM is going to enjoy this conversation, and our community at large, because you are doing bold and beautiful things in education. Tell the people how they can connect with you, because you are an entrepreneur and we want to make sure that girl get that money. You hear me? Okay, so tell them how they can connect with you.
So on Facebook is Beautiful and Bold Creations. On Instagram is beautiful_bold_creations. And you can also, I'm on TikTok as well. Just look up Beautiful Bold Creations. If you see the monarch butterfly, that is me. And also I am a makeup artist, and my makeup is Jess Rose MUA on all platforms.
Okay. And I'll make sure that you guys have the information right here on the screen somewhere. I hope you can find it. But thank you guys for joining us as we had and dived into an amazing conversation. And we learned, we got faith.
Yes.
We got wisdom. And we learned with grace. I see you next time. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video. Bye.